Welcome to a special edition of the Scottish Rite Journal podcast, an audio presentation of the Scottish Rite Journal, brought to you by the Supreme Council of the Scottish Rite, Southern Jurisdiction, Mother Supreme Council of the World. This special article is The Deeper Meaning of Thanksgiving by Dr. Raymond W. Miller, 33rd degree, Grand Cross, and comes from the November 1977 issue of the New Age magazine, predecessor to the Scottish Rite Journal. November is our historic month of Thanksgiving. This year, instead of merely being grateful for our food and for our good life, let us remember some of the things that have been passed on to us by those who have gone before. Let us wander, in thought, from the ancient to the modern, and conjecture how different our lives are today because someone, or some group, built for posterity. In this short article, we will not try to trace the history of change, but, rather, accept the mere fact of change and its effect upon our lives. My thesis is that we live in a changing world, in which the great architect of the universe created man with the power to think and to experiment with his own life, the effects of which are incorporated into the stream of time and which do not die with him. We live in the year 1977 AD with the accumulation of the entire span of man since the beginning of time as our heritage. Most of the advances that we have inherited are so much a part of our lives that we accept them without credit or question. This Thanksgiving, let us look at but a few of the things that make life more enjoyable for us because someone wanted to improve man's lot. We are truly the beneficiaries of the thinking of the ages. In the material field, let's take a look, for instance, at the modern refrigerator freezers that have so much to do with our diet. Not only do they store fresh dairy products, meats, fruits, and vegetables, but the list of available frozen foods grows daily. What would our pilgrim mothers have said to a Thanksgiving turkey? Not only frozen, but pre-stuffed, that comes with butter basting in its tissues and a pop-up thermometer to show when it's done. When we turn on an automatic gas or electric range, how does it compare with the colonial family's cooking arrangements? I once saw the long stone oven in which my 8th generation removed grandmother baked dozens of pies for Thanksgiving feasts. She pre-stoked it with hand-cut wood for 2 days to accumulate sufficient heat, and then, having cleaned out the ashes, she put in her pies. Somewhat different, is it not, from having heat controlled and timed by a knob? When we use our systems of communications to gather family and friends together for the feast, the dial telephone for one, making the whole continent and much of the world our instant neighbors, is it hard for us to think of the days of our forefathers when even a message to the next farm was a time-consuming chore? Getting in touch with someone often meant a journey by foot or on horseback through the elements. Snow in winter, heat in summer. When illness or accident overtook one of our pioneers, he was largely on his own or dependent upon his family. Medicines and treatments were a cross between fact and fiction. Even as late as the end of the 18th century, George Washington was bloodlet as he lay dying. Hospitals, as we know them today, were largely non-existent, and the value of sterilization, pasteurization, and other such precautionary methods was yet to be fully recognized. Nursing, as a profession of skilled women, was for the future Florence Nightingales and Clara Barton. Pioneers in the healing arts and women doctors were for the generations to come, not for the pioneer family. Man traveled largely at the speed of horse or oxen, at much the same rate as had Abraham when he came out of Ur. The engine was not to be patented by Watt until 1799, and the 19th century was underway before Fulton applied the power of steam to water navigation. The electric trolley was not to supplant the horse car for some generations. Reading and writing, which together compose the conveyor belt of knowledge and civilization, were done under difficult conditions. Webster, with his dictionary, was still generations in the future. The encyclopedia was yet to pioneer far into the field of general reference knowledge. In colonial days, kerosene had not yet supplanted whale oil for fluid for light, and writing instruments were dependent upon plucking quill feathers from birds. The Northwest Territories Act, one of the first laws passed by the Continental Congress after the granting of our independence, included a mandate for the establishment of schools. It is one of our greatest heritages from the days of the Revolutionary period. It paved the way for educational facilities as the nation's frontier moved westward. The citizens of the new republic were basically producers of food, fiber, and fur for use at home and abroad. The varieties of plants and animals were run-of-the-mill, but such leaders for independence as George Washington and Thomas Jefferson took a keen interest in upgrading the varieties and subsequently the yields. The crops of the days of change, from monarchy to republic, were slim on a per-acre basis. The wild turkey used at Thanksgiving was lean and scrawny. By animal selection and breeding, we have the plump birds of today, and new cultural and planting techniques brought us the fruited plains of America, the beautiful. These are a mere sampling of changes for which we are grateful. Each reader can add many more that fit his own life and environment. Some of our troubles arise from the fact that we have taken too many things for granted without being builders, trying in our own time to leave the world a somewhat better place than we found it. We seldom think of the discomforts and hardships from under which the creators of our republic labored. Some were wealthy and aristocratic at birth, but they had not the luxuries which we enjoy today, from whatever economic level we come. As we use the products of modern technology, let's give a thought to how they have lightened our daily burden and allowed us to progress even further. Masonry is the accumulation of the philosophy of the ancients who experienced new ideas and the faith that separated them from the unthinking. The craft has chosen to sustain and promote those ideals that have proved themselves to be most in tune with the plans of the infinite. Each person who becomes a Mason has the choice of learning and growing, or merely drifting and adding nothing of value to the world about him. The great lesson taught by Freemasonry through all its symbolism and degrees is that we are inhabitants of a changing world, and it is our duty and privilege, as we thank God for these blessings, to treat them as a trust for betterment, material, spiritual, or both. Our ancestors in this nation's life gave us advantages in every field, and it is our duty not only to appreciate them, but to augment them as we pass them along to generations to come.